All right. Good afternoon and welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of Monday, December the 9th. Please be advised that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted at the back of the chambers by the northwest door. Let us all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, after which we'll have a short moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. The order of business for council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda, and under public hearing, anyone wishing to speak on an item must first register and sign in at the table located in the lobby. The council shall require any member of the public addressing the council to identify themselves, the name of any organization represented by such person, and their address, unless the address requirement is waived to protect the security of the individual. Each speaker should state whether they are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item, and testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads the item and the applicant has presented. After public comments, the applicant may make one short rebuttal. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last Mondays of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. We ask that all speakers strive for civility and allow the business of council to proceed unimpeded. Will the clerk please call the first item of business today?
Our first item of business today is our Mayor's Award of Excellence.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Washington and members of the council. I'm so delighted to be back before you to present a very special Award of Excellence. This is the annual Mayor's Award of Excellence for 2023. At the beginning of every year, all the monthly Mayor's Awards of Excellence winners are from the previous year are once again considered for this annual award. All nominations are reviewed by a committee that then selects the overall winner for the year. And I'm so pleased to announce that winner. It's my honor to present the annual Mayor's Award of Excellence for 2023 to Tina Baker, Jeff Lacey, and Jerry Peitzig of the Lincoln Transportation and Utilities team. These folks were nominated by the Lincoln Police Department Captain Ben Miller and Sergeant Jenny Glantz in the categories of safety and productivity for their efforts to assist LPD investigators over the course of 2 weeks in the fall of 2022. LPD's investigation ultimately led to a search for evidence at the city's landfill on North 48th Street. And carrying out a search at the landfill involves a lot of complex and unique challenges, including temperatures that at the time exceeded 100 degrees, health and safety concerns, and a massive amount of material that required a very thorough search. To help strategize and coordinate and execute that search in such challenging conditions, our LPD investigators relied on LTU Senior Environmental Health Specialist Tina Baker. In addition to assisting with crucial aspects of search planning and logistics, Tina connected LPD investigators with 2 members of her team at LTU, utility equipment operators Jeff Lacey and Jerry Peitzig. In their nomination letter, Captain Miller and Sergeant Glantz praised Tina's knowledge, her leadership, experience, and her positive, encouraging attitude. For their part, Jeff and Jerry assisted the investigation by moving thousands of pounds of material in ways that allowed our law enforcement professionals to safely conduct their search. In summing up the contributions of their City of Lincoln colleagues, the nominators said that Tina, Jeff, and Jerry became, quote, members of our team, whose level of dedication, professionalism, and selflessness words cannot adequately express. So I hope you will please join me in congratulating this trio, Tina Baker, Jeff Lacey, and Jerry Peitzig, for their truly extraordinary work to support this investigation and our law enforcement professionals. And if they could come up and receive their awards now. to ask Lincoln Transportation Utilities Director Liz Elliott to say a few words about her team.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members, for allowing me to just say a few words. It is exciting to be up here celebrating the annual award for these three. They do such a tremendous job day in and day out, but really they always rise to the occasion, and this one was unlike any other that they've had to deal with, to secure a landfill, collaborate and work with LPD, and yet continue to keep operations running so we can continue work at there, all while maintaining compliance and meeting NDE requirements. And I think this just is a perfect example of their tremendous work ethic and their teamwork and willingness to go above and beyond every day. So thank you to Tina, Jeff, and Jerry. So thank you.
Tina, Jeff, and Jerry, but let me know they're not that interested in coming up here and having any remarks to give, which is just fine. But are there any family members you would like to point out to us today so we can thank them for their support of your excellent work and service to the city? Any family members? Sure. Okay.
I'd like to recognize my father-in-law and my mother-in-law, Roger and Ann Feigert.
All right, where are they? Can you wave? Oh. We're so grateful to you all, and I wanted to see if the council had any remarks they wanted to share.
Well, certainly on behalf of the entire council, we remember you coming forward for the monthly award, and I can understand why you might not want more public speaking opportunities, but really the work that you did to work with LPD, to open up the landfill, was really monumental work and just excellent. Thank you so much for your service to our community, even in ways that you don't expect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, another round of applause for our winners. Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, let's proceed on to the Board of Equalization.
Okay. Next is our Board of Equalization, and we will have election of chair.
All right, so I'm accepting nominations for the election of chair for the Board of Equalization. Are there any nominations?
I would nominate Sandra Washington for chair.
Second. Nope, Justin got it.
Carlson, second. Are there any other nominations? I will accept your nomination. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, could you read the roll?
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Now that we have a chair, let's proceed to the business of the Board of Equalization.
We will have a reading of opening statement by our chair.
All right. We only do this a couple of times a year. All right, the meeting is called to order. Please be advised, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted by the back of the chambers by the northwest door. And welcome to this meeting on Monday, November 9th. Each year, the Lincoln City Council passes a number of improvement district ordinances. Today, we are here to equalize the assessments for several such districts: the Downtown Core Management Business Improvement District, the Downtown Maintenance District, the Downtown Management Business Improvement District, and the West Haymarket Downtown Maintenance District. The land described in each of one of the districts are benefited by the improvement in the districts. The cost of these services are paid for by the city from its special assessment revolving fund, and it is then necessary for the city to recoup its costs from the benefited properties and reimburse its revolving funds. These costs or assessments are computed by the Urban Development Department and presented to the city for its review when sitting as the Board of Equalization, as we are now. The clerk will read a description of each district individually. After the district is read, a representative from the Urban Development Department will come forward to make a brief statement about the district, and then anyone wishing to testify may come forward. We ask that if you do come forward, please state your name and sign the sheet at the podium. Clerk, please read the first item.
Okay, I'll read the districts in for the Board of Equalization meeting of December 9th, 2024. Downtown Core Management Business Improvement District, generally bounded by N Street on the south and Pinnacle Arena Drive on the west, thence north and northeasterly along Pinnacle Arena Drive to 8th Street, then south along 8th Street to S Street, thence east along S Street to 9th Street, then south along 9th Street to Q Street, thence east along Q Street to 10th Street, thence north along 10th Street to a point approximately mid-block between Q Street and R Street, thence east along said mid-block, point up to 14th Street, then south along 14th Street to Q Street, then east along Q Street to Centennial Mall, then south along Centennial Mall to M Street, then west along M Street to 13th Street, then south along 13th Street to L Street, then west along L Street to 12th Street, then north along 12th Street to M Street, then west along M Street to N Street, then, to 9th Street, then north along 9th Street to N Street, then west along N Street to Pinnacle Arena Drive. Downtown Maintenance District, a line beginning at the intersection of K Street and South 21st Street and extending west along the center line of K Street to South 13th Street, then north along South 13th Street to the center line of L Street, then west along the center line of L Street to the center line of South 12th Street, then north along the center line of South 12th Street to the south right-of-way line of M Street, then west along the south right-of-way line to M Street to the west right-of-way line of 8th Street, then north along the west right-of-way line of 8th Street to the north right-of-way line of the east-west alley between O and N Streets, then west along the north right-of-way line of the north right-of-way line of the east-west alley between N and O Streets to the west property line of Lot 1, Augustine Subdivision, City of Lincoln, Lancaster County, Nebraska, then north along the west property line of Lot 1, Augustine's Addition, to the south right-of-way line of O Street, then west to the north-south alley between Canopy Street and 8th Street and running from O Street to P Street and continuing north along the west right-of-way line of 7th Street and running from O Street to P Street and continuing north along the west right-of-way line of 7th Street and running from O Street to P Street, continuing north along the west right-of-way line of 7th Street and running from 7th Street, to R Street, then east along the north right-of-way line of R Street, but excluding properties adjacent to the north side of R Street to the east right-of-way line of 10th Street, then south to the north right-of-way line of Q Street, then east along the north right-of-way line of Q Street to the center line of 19th Street, including all parcels adjacent to the north right-of-way line of Q Street, except those parcels lying east of the 14th Street. Then south along the center line of 19th Street to the center line of P Street, then east along the center line of P Street to the center line of 21st Street to N Street, and then south along the east right-of-way line of 21st Street to the center line of K Street, exterior boundary area, as well as those parcels abutting South 13th Street between K Street and Lincoln Mall, and those parcels abutting the east side of South 21st Street between N Street and K Street. Downtown Management Business Improvement District, those properties within and where specifically stated, abutting the area defined by an area bounded by the north side of K Street from 21st Street to 14th Street, then south along the west side of 14th Street to Lincoln Mall, then along Lincoln Mall from 14th Street to 10th Street, including those parcels adjacent to the south of Lincoln Mall between 14th Street and 10th Street, then north along the east side of 10th Street to K Street, then west along the north side of K Street to 8th Street, then north along the east side of 8th Street to N Street, then west along the north side of N Street to Pinnacle Arena Drive, then north along the east side of Pinnacle Arena Drive and following said street as it bends in the northeasterly direction until it intersects with 8th Street, then south along 8th Street to the S Street and including the parcels adjacent to 8th Street and onto the east, then east along South S Street to 9th Street, then south along 9th Street to R Street, and including the parcels adjacent to 9th Street on the east, then east along the south side of R Street to 10th Street, then south along the west side of 10th Street to Q Street, then east along Q Street to 19th Street, and including these parcels abutting the north side of Q Street between 10th Street and 14th Street, as well as those abutting the north side of Q Street between 17th Street and 19th Street, then south along the west side of 19th Street to P Street, then east along the south line of P Street to 21st Street, then south along 21st Street from P Street to K Street, including those parcels adjacent to the east side of the 21st Street between P Street and K Street. West Haymarket Downtown Maintenance District, generally located along the west line of Outlot C, West Haymarket Addition from approximately K Street on the south, north to N Street, and continuing north along the center line of Pinnacle Arena Drive to approximately 9th and 10th Streets, then south to R Street, then west to 7th Street, then south to O Street, then east to 8th Street, then south to the alley south of N Street, then west to the east line of Outlot C, West Haymarket Addition.
All right. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Ron Kane, Urban Development Department. The assessments before you this afternoon are for the assessment resolutions that council approved last week. This is distributing those assessments. The downtown maintenance and the West Haymarket District are assessed on a front footage basis, whereas the core management and the downtown management are based on property valuations as determined by the county assessor. These costs that we're assessing are for the time period September 1 of 2023 to August 31 of 2024. And I will try to answer any questions you may have regarding these assessments.
Do any counselors have questions for Mr. Kane? I see no questions. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here who'd like to testify on these items? Anyone here who'd like to speak to the Board of Equalization on these districts? Seeing no one come forward, Madam Clerk, let's proceed to the roll.
We can vote on these assessments. I'll need someone to move a motion for these items.
Move approval, Beckius.
I'll second.
Second, Carlson.
Okay, I'll call the vote on all districts. Carlson,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes,
Motion carried 6-0.
thank you. All right. And seeing no other matters coming before the Board of Equalization tonight, I will adjourn the Board of Equalization. All right. We'll give about 30 seconds, and we will come back to the regular council session. All right. Having already read the instructions for council session, I will open the council session. And Madam Clerk, would you please present items for consent agenda?
Sure. Also, just a reminder, prior, a memo for Christmas and New Year's holidays, we will not meet for City Council on December 23rd and December 30th. Next is the consent agenda. We'll call items on sections 1, 2, and 3.
Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on an item on consent? Good afternoon, Mayor.
Oh, good afternoon again. I'm really pleased to stand before you this afternoon again, this time to introduce Joe Donlinger, who we would like to respectfully ask for your approval to serve as our City of Lincoln's next Chief Financial Officer. And when we set out to fill this really key role on our leadership team, we looked for someone with a real strong background in governmental budgeting and service delivery and best practices, and someone who has a solution-oriented approach to managing public sector finance, ensuring that we can fulfill the commitments we make to the public. And as we advance through the search process, Joe's experience in public sector financial management, his commitment to fiscal responsibility, and his ambition for organizational excellence really impressed us. Joe is currently the CFO for APACE, formerly known as Region 5 Services, which is responsible for developing and coordinating publicly funded behavioral health services in southeast Nebraska. And prior to joining APACE in 2021, Joe served as Deputy Director of Finance and Program Integrity with the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services Division of Developmental Disabilities. And within that division, he also served previously as Financial Officer and Financial Services Program Analyst. Joe holds not one, but 3 degrees from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. He has a master's in business administration, and he has 2 bachelor's degrees, one in economics and one in chemistry. Joe's diverse background will position the city to maintain its top financial ratings that enable us to provide great services to our community members. And with that, I would be so grateful for your full consideration of his nomination and approval today. And I would love to invite Joe up to be officially introduced to you all. So Joe, why don't you come up?
You.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Donlinger.
Thank you, Chairperson Washington, and thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Chairperson Washington and members of the council. I am honored to be considered for the position of Chief Financial Officer for the City of Lincoln. I want to extend my gratitude to the Mayor for entrusting me with this opportunity and to the City Council for your consideration and support. As CFO, I will focus on fiscal strategies that support Lincoln's economic growth, infrastructure needs, and sustainability goals. Together, we can achieve a balance between responsible stewardship of public funds and the investments needed to secure a prosperous future for our city. I look forward to working closely with each of you, the mayor, and the dedicated employees of the City of Lincoln. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'm excited to get to work.
All right, thank you. Are there any counselors here who have a question or comment for Mr. Donlinger?
Just a quick comment, Chair. Just thank you for giving your time to the City of Lincoln. We surely appreciate it. I think we all look forward to working with you. It was nice to talk to you, and I look forward to a continued relationship and good work. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on the nomination of Joe Donlinger as Chief Financial Officer for the City of Lincoln?
I thought this was like for the entire consent agenda?
First, I'm asking specifically about this nomination, just because this is a very large one. And if there is no one here to speak specifically on this one, then I will accept comments on any of the items on consent. Yes.
My name is Anastasia Fenner, and I just want to talk about the Commission on Human Rights and how, like, the mayor particularly and the city council has not done very well on, like, deciding what human rights are, because it's, like, very plain to see that we still have a weapons manufacturer in Lincoln, Nebraska on Superior and Industrial that nobody really seems to care about. And if you care about, like, the human rights, this commissioner, these people that are being either reappointed or appointed should perhaps understand that that is part of human rights. The fact that, like, we make 2,000-pound bombs partially here in Lincoln, Nebraska, and they're going across the seas, killing children, ruining water supplies. Is that something that the Human Rights Commission understands? That we are violating human rights here in Lincoln, Nebraska? It would be really, really important for these people to understand. The Lincoln, Nebraska is responsible for the bombing of hospitals, for the bombing of churches, for the bombing of children. I really don't see any human rights being paid attention to. As a citizen of Lincoln, Nebraska, you have done a horrible job. I have seen people brutalized on the streets. I have seen people not being taken into account. Our unhoused brothers and sisters are facing exposure in the upcoming winter months. I don't see any care about them, because calling the police, which are part of a culture that is the culture of, like, you know, murdering people, as we can see, has a lot of United States police officers are trained by the Israeli Defense Force. We see how horribly people have been treated. We see how no one is treated with regard. If we're going to discuss anything on human rights, it is shameful that we have a weapons manufacturer here. Shameful that we get to have our little party right here, get to sit in our nice suits and talk about how great a job we're doing. When you have people living on the streets in Lincoln, when you have people building bombs that kill children in Lincoln, that is everyone here's fault. Where are the actual caring about human rights? Because it seems like maybe you shouldn't be reappointing Rob and Catherine because we still have a weapons manufacturer in town that violates people's human rights. You do have to understand that when we go and bomb a country that's violating their human rights, there's no water that is safe to drink in Gaza. Mothers are having C-sections without anesthetics. People are having surgeries without antibiotics. Human rights, where are they? Lincoln pretends to care because you guys like to say, like, human rights on a piece of paper. Where is the actual caring about human rights? And especially since we're just going to be the laziest people that I've ever seen and just not show up to work for most of this month, maybe we should understand that part of the reason that there's this little holiday called Christmas is because it centers around a very specific Palestinian man called Jesus. Jesus was a Palestinian. Where do you think Jerusalem is? It is in Palestine. So are we going to literally talk about human rights today? Pretend that we care because we have a commission on human rights that does nothing? Because we are a city dedicated to making sure that those bombs keep getting dropped on children. Really wild, because I'm not gonna guess like what your specific beliefs are, but generally I feel like it's very likely that at least one of you on the city council are a Christian, and I cannot help but see the comparisons of, say, King Herod, who killed all of the children out of fear of Jesus, and y'all allowing children in the same place that your Savior was from to be bombed. You are becoming a biblical murderer. You are acting the way that some of the worst people in apparently history have acted, which is the slaughter of children. This Commission on Human Rights needs to understand that we are violating human rights on a disgusting scale. We're taking away food, we're taking away water, we're taking away medical care, we are taking away clothing, we are taking away culture. Some of these places that have been bombed are thousands of years old. What about the human rights on preserving people's culture, about preserving their lives? More than just survival, but actually living.
Is there anyone in chambers who'd like to present on any other item on the consent agenda?
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Jamie Reyes, Lincoln Commission on Human Rights, and I am here to provide an introduction for our appointment of Nathan Wen Hay to serve as a commissioner with LCHR, which would start in January through a term of December 31st of 2027. Nathan currently serves as the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement at UNL, which is where I've had the pleasure of getting to know Nathan. He's very involved in the greater community of Lincoln as well as the community of UNL, serving students any way that he can. He brings a breadth of experience and leadership that I think would be excellent for the role. We're very happy that he's decided to continue supporting the community through involvement with the city and specifically with LCHR. I would like to note that in his application, he noted he wanted to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, can find a home here, which I believe is equal to LCHR's mission in ensuring equal opportunity for all Lincoln residents. And so I would like to take an opportunity that if Nathan would like to say a few words, I'll invite him to the front.
Thank you and welcome.
Hello, council members.
Hello.
Really appreciate this great opportunity. My name is Nathan Wen He. I've been in Lincoln, Nebraska for almost 13 years. This is almost my second home. If I stay 3 more years, this is going to be the longest city I ever stayed in my entire life. And as a physical assault survivor in the city of Lincoln, a lot of people just assume that I will move away when this opportunity arise. However, I choose to stay because as a queer first-gen immigrant and BIPOC immigrant of this country, I did find a safe space in the city, and with the people around me, choose to give the time to me to help me grow and supported me, made me realize I can do the same for other people, regardless of background. Maybe it's a process, but I'm willing to be part of the process and put into my efforts into that. And that's why I'm very appreciate this opportunity, and I can't wait to work with great people like Jamie and the rest of people on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve and for your personal story and your willingness to make Lincoln your home and make it a better place.
I appreciate that.
All right. All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to present an item on consent?
Hello again, Jamie Reyes with the Commission on Human Rights.
Welcome back, Director.
Thank you. I would now like to speak to the support of the reappointment of Rob McIntarfer and Catherine Wilson to the Commission on Human Rights, which would be an appointment to a full term starting in January that would run through December 31st of 2027. These two individuals were appointed to LCHR last year as commissioners to serve out a partial term, that ends this December 31st of 2024. And so with that, we would just like your support in their reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you. And is there anyone else who'd like to address an item on consent? Madam Clerk.
We can now vote on these items. I'll call item 1A, approving Joe Dondlinger as Finance Director, Chief Financial Officer, effective December 10th of 2024, introduced by Judith.
So moved. Beckius.
I'll second. Carlson.
Second. Carlson. Any other comments, discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Thank you, and congratulations. Welcome aboard. All right.
Okay, I'll call item 1B is appointing Nathan Wenhey to the Commission on Human Rights for a term to expire December 31st of 2027, introduced by Judith.
So moved. Beckius.
Second.
Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 1C is reappointing Rob McIntyre and Catherine Wilson to the Commission on Human Rights for terms to expire December 31st of 2027, introduced by Judith.
So moved. Beckius.
Second.
Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
You have a full Human Rights Commission now, Director Reyes. All right. Next item, 1D.
Item 1D is reappointing Shirley Mora James and Michael Thompson to the Citizen Police Advisory Board for terms to expire November 17th of 2027, introduced by Duden.
So moved. Beckius.
Second.
Carlson. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right.
Item 1E is reappointing Alyssa Martin and David Spiner to the Lincoln Electric System Administrative Board for terms to expire December 31st of 2027, introduced by Duden.
So moved. Beckius.
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Weber,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Beckius,
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. I think that concludes consent. Let's move forward to public hearing on liquor resolutions.
I'll call items 4A and B together. Items 4A and B is application of Landshark Realty Group LLC, doing business as the Corner Bar for a Class CKE liquor license located at 350 Canopy Street, Suite 100, and the related manager application of Todd Mosser.
All right. Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Todd Mosser. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm here to answer any questions you guys might have about what we're doing down there as we replace long wells here in the last month.
Okay. Thank you. Do any counselors, Councilman Beckius?
Todd, would you just give us an overview as to what you've been up to here for a while since you've taken over that space? And then I heard something about Sunday brunch. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah.
Sunday brunch?
Yeah.
Sunday brunch.
Okay.
So I own a bar called Tanks Country, which is right next door to where Longwells is, and we moved in there in the summer of this year and found out very quickly what was going on in the rail yard. And when the opportunity came up for us to come in and hopefully change some culture in the rail yard, I think we did a good job here during the football season, and we're excited to. We have a restaurant in South Lincoln called Tanks, and we're going to have a full service restaurant that's just opened up last week, Tuesday through Sunday, including brunch on Sundays. So we're here to really to work with all the groups that are currently there, kind of as a big team to bring a lot more interest other than just football Saturdays. I think the safety issues have been a big concern. We've had a lot of problems down there, and I think the Lincoln Police Department has just did an amazing job this year when we needed the help to get rid of some of those problems. And so when we came and took over on November 1st, the very next day we had a football game, and we've really heightened security, added a lot of extra people along with the security down there to make sure that it's safe. I mean, that's the biggest thing. We want families down there. We're excited to. I got appointed as the music guy now for the center of the rail yard, so they're giving me all the fun stuff to do. But we're going to create a great summertime fun. Hopefully, if eventually if Canopy Street does permanently close down there, we'll have a great opportunity to have some fun down there. So,
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Mosser? Well, I got to appreciate your sense of humor, Land Shark Realty. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this application? Anyone here to speak on this application? Seeing none, we'll proceed.
I'll call items 4C and 4D together. Item 4C and D is application of VI Opco LLC doing business as Village Inn for a Class I liquor license located at 6555 O Street, and the related manager application of Brian Schweitzer.
Hi, council members.
Good afternoon.
Glad to be here. Probably not as exciting as Ty here, but been doing Village Inn, looking to do the kind of breakfast drinks as well, mimosas, stuff like that.
Sunday brunch.
Sunday brunch.
Sunday
you
brunch.
got it,
Pretty
you got
excited
it.
about Sunday
We're
brunch,
already
sir,
pretty
so-
awesome at Sunday, but we got to add some extra kick there. So
Okay. We didn't have a full application, though I've already spoken with Investigator Parker. It sounds like your application is great, but just for the record, have you completed your liquor training?
I went to the class last week or 2 weeks ago, and then I'm doing the Serve Safe one as well, which that'll be completed this week. So,
All right, thank you very much.
all right, thank you very much.
All right. Did any other counselors have questions? Nope. All right. Is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to address this application? Anyone else here in chambers who'd like to address this application?
Madam Chair, seeing no one else coming forward, I'd like to make a motion that we approve items 4A through 4D.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
Carlson.
Thank you, Carlson.
All right. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's move forward to public hearing resolutions.
I'll call item 5A, amending Lincoln Lancaster County Air Pollution Control Regulations and Standards, Article 2, Sections 1, 8, 11, and 22.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Director
council
Garner.
members. Carrie Kernan with the Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department, 3131 O Street. I've invited and asked Brock Hanish to join me, our Environmental Public Health Division Manager, to speak to the proposed amendments to the Lincoln Lancaster County Air Pollution Control Regulations and Standards that are before you for consideration.
All right.
All right. Good afternoon, members of the council. As Director Kernan mentioned, my name is Brock Hanish. I'm the Division Manager of Environmental Public Health at the Lincoln Lancaster County Health Department, 3131 O Street. And in line with the Health Department's mission to protect and promote the public's health, the Environmental Public Health Division's Air Quality Section ensures local air pollution control regulations align with state and federal standards. So recent revisions to the Lincoln Lancaster County Air Pollution Control Program regulations and standards addresses changes required by the EPA's 2023 final rule, which removes the emergency affirmative defense provisions from the Clean Air Act operating permits. And these updates affect the Lincoln Lancaster County Air Pollution Control Program regulations and standards, Article 2, Sections 1, 8, 11, and 12, primarily affecting the changes with verbiage and removal of the affirmative action defense piece, as well as removing some outdated provisions and some corrections and some reference components. The revisions were endorsed by the ABCAB, the Air Pollution Control Advisory Board, as well as the Board of Health. And just for an example here, so the emergency affirmative defense provisions allowed sources to avoid, and these would be air sources, pollutant sources within our community, to avoid liability of enforcement proceedings by demonstrating that violations of certain emission limitations were caused by a quote-unquote emergency situation. And then on July 12th of 2023, the US EPA issued a final rule to remove that emergency affirmative defense provision from the Clean Air Act operating permits. So if you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer those for you. But in general, we're adopting and we're required to take on those the changes within our local air regs that we have been promulgated to us via the EPA.
Okay. Are there any questions from counselors? Any comments? All right. Thank you very much. I think that's very clear.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here in chambers who'd like to address this issue, either in support or opposition? All right, seeing no one coming forward, Madam Clerk, let's move forward.
I'll call item 5B, assessing the cost incurred for cutting, clearing, and removing weeds against the various benefited properties for the period of November 1st, 2023 through October 31st of 2024.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Brett Meyer with Lincoln Lancaster County Weed Department. So this is our annual assess the weed liens on anything that hasn't been paid to this point for the 2024 mowing season. So I want to take just a little bit of your time and explain to you a little bit of the process and what happened this season as far as the amount of inspections that we did. So first of all, these are for weed abatement mowings inside city limits of Lincoln. These are not for noxious weed enforcements, which also we have a lot of noxious weed challenges inside the city limits, but what we're here today on is just the weed abatement. There is an appeal process if a landowner feels that we maybe did an abatement on their property that wasn't just. We did have one appeal filed this year. This is the first one in my 14 years that I've been here that someone said, I don't think my yard was that overgrown. The director, Elliott at LTU, is basically the judge on those appeals, and the good thing for us, we take a lot of photographs, and photographs are pretty good when you go to court. So, so the appeal was upheld. The landowner agreed that, you know, they were out of town for a month and it did get bad, but so they went ahead and paid it. So I just want to make that. Usually I get to say we've never had an appeal, but this year we did have one. So, but we do send, you know, every landowner is notified through the legal process, and we even just it's a 5-day ordinance. But most of the time before we do an abatement, it's probably a month has gone by. So we try to work with the landowners. In most cases, occasionally there'll be a site obstruction at an intersection or something where we just need to get it down in a hurry for safety issues. So those do happen. I do have this information, and I'm sorry that it's hot off the press. I'm going to pass this. You won't have to make notes of it, and if the council wants those. We did 296 enforcements this year, so that's not a huge number in most people's minds, but we did, that was a result of 7,689 inspections, and we were on 3,600 properties. So out of 3,600 properties to do 300 enforcements, I think we get pretty good compliance with our notification process. But what that means is we had boots on the ground 7,689 times on properties this summer. So I want to give credit to my seasonal inspectors, my chief noxious weed inspector, and of course my clerk, because every one of those inspections gets a piece of mail that circles through, and as we all know, the clerk's office is the heart and soul of any operation. So I do want to acknowledge them for the work that they do. Out of those, we did send 1,244 legal notices. Certified legal notices, and I don't know if we should be proud of this next thing or ashamed of it, but we are the #1 request for service on Uplink year after year after year. We had 3,647 total complaints, so we take them in on Uplink on our website and then as well as on the phone. So if you look clear to the bottom on the Uplink results, this was printed just last Friday. We had 2,345 complaints through Uplink, or requests for service, as we like to call them. Even with the tree windstorm and the tree issues that we had this year, they had 2,002 requests for service on trees. So I just bring that up, not that we're excited to be #1 on that, but the citizens of Lincoln do request our service a lot, and we do our best to get those properties cleaned up in a timely manner. We're always too fast for the person we're doing the weed abatement on, but we're never fast enough for the neighbor who has to look at the problem. So in addition to our weed abatement inspections, we did an additional 839 inspections for noxious weeds on 549 properties. So, You may have heard me talk about Phragmites or musk thistle or leafy spurge, but those things occur in the city limits almost as much as they do in the rural areas, and they're a lot more challenging to control in a wetland, and inside city limits, and an outlawed in a homeowners association. So that's kind of what I have. I would like to answer any questions. What you have before you today, and with the amendment, is what has not been paid to this point. Those will get assessed a lien and then go to the county treasurer's office. What I will note on that front page, because I get this question once in a while from y'all, is currently, and last year prior all the way out, what we have remaining is $29,000. So we do a good job collecting those on tax sales after 3 years, but most of the time through the process we get them collected. We've got one really old one from 2005 that I'm not sure why is still there, but we'll get that cleaned up. So most of those were within 2 years. So if we assess $48,000 to have that little bit remaining out there, I think is pretty good as far as the collection process. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do any councilors have questions? Really good work.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Would anyone here like to address this issue? Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on this one, either in favor or in opposition? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
We can now vote on these items. Item 5A is amending Lincoln Lancaster County Air Pollution Control Regulations and Standards, Articles 2, Sections 1, 8, 11, and 22. Introduced by Duden.
So moved, Beckius.
Second.
Second, Shob.
Ooh, thank you.
All right, are there any discussion? All right, no discussion. Madam Clerk.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
And Shob.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right.
Item 5B is assessing the cost incurred for cutting, clearing, and removing weeds against the various benefited properties for the period of November 1st, 2023 through October 31st of 2024. Introduced by Duden.
So moved, Beckius.
Second.
Carlson, second. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to amend Bill number 24R568 to substitute the attachment that was listed on December 2nd to the attachment that's listed today on December 9th that properly reflects the updated assessment report.
Thank you very much. Is there a second on this one?
Second.
Second, Carlson. Any questions about the updated or the substitute? All right, hearing no questions on that, Madam Clerk, let's call the motion to amend number 1.
Carlson?
Yes.
Shob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
And now the main motion.
Carlson?
Yes.
Shob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Bowers?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilman Weber. We're going to move forward to public hearing ordinances, second reading. And the first item, Madam Clerk, if you want to hold just a moment, I think we're getting you something to drink. Oh, because I can tell that you're getting very...
Here, I got it.
Okay, thanks so much.
Oh, sorry.
And I know you have a lot to read in order coming up. Yes. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gonna win brownie points, Mr. Carlson.
What a guy.
All right. All right. Let's move forward to public hearing ordinances, second reading.
I'll call items 6A, B, and C together. Items 6A, B, and C is annexation 24009, application of NEB Holdings LLC to annex approximately 36.59 acres on property generally located at Northwest 48th Street and West Holdridge Street. and the related change of zone 24025, application of NEP Holdings LLC to change the zoning designation from AG Agriculture to R5 Residential PUD and B2 Planned Neighborhood Business District PUD on property generally located at Northwest 48th Street and West Holdridge Street, and the related conditional annexation and change of zone agreement for Falcon Heights between the city and NEB Holdings LLC for the property generally located at the southeast corner of Northwest 48th Street and West Holdridge Streets.
All right. Is the applicant here today? Welcome. All right. Both microphones work. They're on either side. All right.
Greetings, Council. My name is Kelly Langer. I'm with Nebraska Cottage Company. About a year ago, I was asked to look at this parcel, and there were some existing layouts and drawings, and I'm here to talk about what we've been doing for the last year to get to where we are today. I can give you a synopsis of how we see the development, or I can just take questions and then do that, whichever.
Would you provide a short synopsis, and then
Yes.
we may have questions?
Am I doing this right? Is it upside down or right side up? Of course it is. Had a 50-50 chance. I'm thinking about just going to a brunch place, though, so this doesn't work out.
Okay.
This is the whole development. We've got some commercial components, and we've got some self-storage tenants already interested in being in this area, which we think will be great for that area. Will also serve the housing that we're talking about. And then there's some yet to be defined commercial space that will be worked on. We have NeighborWorks, who's going to be helping us doing some of that stuff, some assessment, what the neighborhood needs, what the neighborhood wants. And we're very excited about working with them. They're also interested in building some of the houses. That's the housing, and that's the coloring I did this morning so you can see where the grass was. What we have is 81 houses at this point. We're going with density. We're going with affordability, which we call attainability. Affordability seems to bring up some connotations, at least in my small brain, so I call it attainable housing. And we're trying to bring it in at a price point that are first-time home buyers or last-time home buyers. So folks a little bit, yeah, empty nesters, downsizers, folks like that. Also, we're cognizant of the brain drain that we get through the university, where we have great folks go through and they take off for other places that they see as more affordable or have more incentives for them. We really think that if we can provide a place for them to go right into and start their journey in Lincoln, that might be a great spot for them. These are smaller homes. It's not, tiny homes are sort of a 400 square feet or smaller. These are all 600 to 1,000 square feet, 1 and 2 bedroom options, and single stall garages. So they're sort of throwback homes. Sort of, I don't know, I look back with Google, you can see every house you ever lived in. So naturally, in the 7 states and 14 moves I've made, I've looked at every one of those houses, and gosh, they looked bigger when I was that big. But they look small now. And a couple of those houses bear pretty close resemblance to what we're proposing here. So,
Thank you. I see you've got a picture,
Yes.
image of a house. I
Yes.
can see that far.
well, thought why not? People
Yeah.
like pretty pictures.
We
I
do.
do. So
Okay.
this is what I would consider the traditional cottage design. It's more of what comes up in somebody's mind when you say cottage. Although I was looking online today at the Vanderbilt cottage back east, and it's 4,500 square feet or something. And then I have a modern version, which may appeal to not necessarily an age spectrum, but certainly it tends to the younger, although that's the one I really like. And then the I've got a really small one. This one's 544 square feet, and it does have 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a little kitchen. If people say they want small houses, tiny houses, we're going to see if they really do. We're going to try and meet that need. I think that there's a market for it, and I think there are people who do want that for lots of different reasons. And just for the matter of looking at the floor plan, there's a 2-bedroom, kitchen, bath, dining, and then family room. Just a nice open house. Tried to get away with no hallways at all to really maximize the use of the space. Just for the sake of reference, in Village Gardens, I built 24 of this basic floor plan in cottages there, and they sold well then, and they continue to resell very well.
All right, thank you very much. Do any counselors have questions? Yes, we'll start with Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question about that image. I can't see the numbers on there. Square footage on that unit?
That particular one is right at 894, so 900 square feet.
And on no basements under these?
There is an option for a basement, but trying to meet that affordability component, we are making it an option.
Okay.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. I did have a couple of questions. I looked at the summary report the planning gave us, and they had, you'd asked for a number of waivers. And I was curious on your, on the setbacks, is it going to be, is what we're looking at right now, does that include, like you said, there's a one-stall garage, so have you amended your plan so that there's a 20-foot setback from the street frontage on the garage?
I can answer that question. My name's Austin Hoops with Clark & Anderson, 1010 Lincoln Mall.
Good afternoon.
And so this can go back up. I believe what you're speaking to is the lots that will front the public roads. And we agreed that they would, where there's a garage facing the road, there'd be 20 feet, which is typical to fit a car in a driveway.
Yep.
And
without blocking
those,
the sidewalk.
Yes,
Yeah.
past the sidewalk. On those, this floor plan. So on the, with how the nature of the design, we have kind of the front yard is facing away from the street, is the opposite is this green common space. And the street side is more of like the backyard. So as you can see in this one where the garage is, the garage would be set back an additional 5 feet on where is necessary.
Would you go back to the drawing that's been colored? So where's the front door?
So
front doors on the green space here. These are all rear load garages off of the alleys or private roadways, or I guess that's the more appropriate term, is private roadway. So all of these homes face a common green space, which encourages community involvement and just neighborly interaction.
And have you taken into consideration all the first responders? I mean, fire. So fire can come down. Are all the roads public, or only some of the roads public?
So apart from the public roads, there's the private roads, and we have already discussed with Lincoln Fire and Rescue. They, as part of the process, we determined that there'll be no parking allowed on the private roads, and that they would need, we discussed the width so that a fire truck could get in and plant the, I'm not sure the technical term, to stabilize the trucks to the ladder, so the ladders can go up. So that's all been thought through.
All right. So will there be an HOA developed so
Yes.
that they will always control parking on private roads and the like?
Yes, HOA for that.
Okey doke. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here today who'd like to speak on this project? A, B, or C? And you can come forward and just give us your name and address, and we'd like to hear your comments. Good afternoon. The microphones are actually to your right and left. Okay, thank you.
And I apologize for my appearance. I own a business where I rehab furniture, and I didn't have time to change before I come.
You're fine.
Please excuse
You're
that.
welcome.
My name is Kelly Leibengood. I live at 4201 West Holdridge Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. I am opposed to the annexation 24009 and change of zone 24025. I'm here today not because I actually think this is going to make a whole lot of difference, because I'm not the first and certainly won't be the last to share grievances in the annexation and development around farmland. I know it happens. But rather, I just wanted to let my family, sorry if I get emotional,
You're fine.
my loving customers, because I own a business at this residence as well. It's very large. And my voice be heard to know that I did my best to lawfully protect what is ours. It's a quiet, it's a sweet, and it's really a lovely farm and a small business that we own that's going to be greatly affected by this. I've already stressed my grievances regarding the negative economic impact that this is forcing us into in an annexation. It raises our taxes, obviously. Excuse me. And it affects our homes and our business taxes, and it forces us into getting city and wastewater, which when doing the homework, resourcing those avenues, it's going to cost us well over $40,000 out of our pocket, and we don't have that. We also don't fall into the bracket where we can get help. So that's just the nature of the beast. It's going to kill us one way or another. We don't need the water, and we certainly can't afford to install it. We again, I aired my disdain at the last city council hearing regarding the safety of my shop and the safety of my livestock that are also on our property. They've become a staple to my customers that have grown to know and love them. This is going to sound weird, but this is just true. We have Kenny Loggins and Peter Parker, our pet turkeys. They provide us eggs and food, but they also provide my customers entertainment. Kids love them. Customers love them. They're just really valuable.
Excuse me, can you give me 1 second?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want you to run out of time. I need to reset this time to give you appropriate
Certainly.
time. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 more minutes. So give me just a
It
second.
shouldn't even take that much longer. It's nothing. You tell me when you're ready.
I apologize on that. So.
No, don't worry.
No, it was our clock. We just want to make sure it's correct.
Sure.
Madam Clerk, could we set a separate timer?
Yes.
Just to get through this? Yeah.
Actually, I'm just going to use my phone on this one, and then I'll correct that one. So
If you trust me, I timed it some less than 2 minutes.
I appreciate. I do apologize on that.
Don't worry about it.
You've got 3 minutes.
I'm just going to skip all this. Basically, it comes down to I respect and admire anybody wanting to develop and build in our area. I understand that it was going to happen when we moved in. We're not opposed to people wanting the American dream. We wanted it too. What we oppose is that in them developing their American dream, they're crapping on ours. Sorry, pooping, I don't know another word. It's encroaching on ours. It's costing us a ton of money that we don't have. And it's putting our livestock and our sanctity and our safety and our peace at risk. That's just a fact. So it sucks because I really like Kelly. He seems like a really nice dude. I love that what they've proposed is really pretty. At least it not going to look like garbage in our backyard when we're used to having a field full of deer and a sunset. You know, I'm not opposed to any of those things. It's the fact that their dream is literally going to wreck ours, and we don't have a choice in that. And it sucks, and we can't do a thing about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for coming down and letting us hear this.
Thank you for your time.
Go ahead, Councilman Bowers.
I was just hoping to get
Ms.
some
Holgren.
clarifying information. So, you said you have a business on your property. Can you tell me a little bit about your business?
Certainly. It's called Jolly Goods Furniture, Painting, and Rehab. It's a very large facility. If you brought up his, the document that he had showing all the houses behind it. Very large facility that there's 2 buildings on that property. One's our home and one is a 6-stall garage that is a fully functioning store. I rehab and restore furniture, but I also sell all the decor that's in it. So it's a legitimate store. You can find me on Google or Facebook.
And then you also mentioned that you have livestock.
We do. We have rabbits, we have turkeys, we have geese, we have ducks, we have chickens, we have roosters. We
Most
use
of the kind of birds.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Like
you
dog
don't have
scouts.
like I don't know, deer or.
No, but we're able to shoot deer for livestock still because we're still considered, we're not city.
Do you have any like pigs or
No.
cows or anything like that?
No.
No. Okay.
Just me when I'm hungry.
And so the kind of the biggest thing that I'm hearing you say is you're concerned about a couple of different things, right? And one's like the life of your livestock.
Yep.
And how they'll be impacted, and
Yeah.
then also the economic impact of your store.
Correct. Well, it's not just the store, it's our home, because like our home, we're fully functioning. We have well water. We don't need city water or sewer. So based on where they're going to develop and the proximity to our home and where we have a hybrid well system and sewer system, we're being forced into city and well water. We won't have a choice because of the proximity of where the houses will be. I think there's a 300 feet radius. And then also, and that's personal, that's not business, but the business aspect of it is he's got a T-section coming right at the back of my shop and where all my animals also live. So my shop and my animals, we have people that are developing across the street from us. And the reason why this has become a concern for us is because we have actively watched them calling our animals off of our property, killing a couple of them already, thinking they're cute or funny, or they just want to kill them because, kids sometimes.
Been doing that?
Yeah, would you explain them calling your wildlife?
So like,
I mean,
we've
your-
actually
your
watched,
livestock, I'm sorry.
it's okay, we
Yeah.
actually have cameras all over the property, and we've watched people actively drive to the front of our property. And so like Peter Parker and Kenny Loggins are turkeys, they're very, very sweet. You can hold them, pet them, they're everything. And people will call them off of our property into the street. We've had to put up gates and fencing to keep them there. They've already killed a goose, a family. We had a goose and a family. They were actively called off the property to the point where they started leaving our property because they were seeking out human companionship. They're very social animals. And so again, we had to put up a fence to keep it and protect what's ours. But we're just worried because there's going to be literally a street right on the crest of our property, the way they've got it lined up. And people call animals. I mean, it's an enticing thing. They're really neat creatures, and they're not typical that you find on somebody's home. And so it's a huge concern for us. We'd feel better if the houses were at least lined up to the back of our property, so that way there's not a street where people are actively engaging, traffic.
Mm-hmm.
It would make us feel better.
Sure. So with your livestock and with the rabbits, the turkeys, geese, and ducks, is it kind of like a free roam situation, or do they all have like little?
Both. So we are free range because we're an acre and a quarter. There's plenty of land for them to do it. But we've had to quarantine them with gates and fencing so people would stop calling them off the property.
Do you have gates all along your property now, or is it just like in specific sections?
It's just, we were broke. So like we just went and got chicken wire and like kind of gated them corralled them into an area. Because they are free range. We prefer to keep it that way. Because one, it also it keeps our ticks down, the fleas down. Like it really is a cyclical relationship with us. They help keep us fed and without pesticides, and we help maintain their life and give them a good, stable place to live.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, any other questions?
I'll have some questions for staff later on about this.
I won't be able to stay because I have to go back to my shop and work. So I apologize that I can't stick around, but I do appreciate you guys hearing me, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you for
Right this
coming.
second?
I'm sorry?
Are you leaving right this second?
If you need me to stick around for a few minutes, I can.
I think we'd like you to know what the staff says, but I understand your time, so if you do need to leave, we can get you
It's
the
okay,
information.
I'll stay for you. I'll stay.
Would you like to speak with David Carey or the health department? I don't know. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I meant David Carey in general terms, Mr. Henriksen.
I guess just to, I guess to
Planning.
keep things short, because I want to be mindful of your time.
It's okay.
In terms of like making sure that like the animals are in compliance or not, getting annexed in, is there going to be? I just want to make sure that her animals are going to be protected legally if annexation happens or whatever, and to make sure that all of a sudden she's not getting notices from the health department to vacate these animals that have lived there their entire lives.
Yeah, so I'm not with animal control, so I can't speak to animal control. My understanding in prior annexations is that there's been a bit of a quote unquote grandfather clause. So we can get more information to you all from animal control if you would like.
Okay. Because that's like one of the biggest things that I'm concerned about, is that, we've had situations similar before, but especially when it comes to our pets and whatnot, I just want to make sure that we memorialize that as much as possible to make sure that, be it a week or a year or 5 years or 10 years, when we're all off the council and, all of a sudden you're getting a notice saying that, these rabbits, ducks, and geese aren't in violation. I want to make sure that you're protected.
Thank you.
With that also. And then the only other question I had about this, and I apologize for kind of skipping around, but I just want to be mindful of your time, is like if the developer would be interested in working, what's your last name, I'm sorry?
Libengood?
Lyman?
Liben good.
Liben?
You're saying like, well, I've been good.
Good. If there was any interest from the developer in looking at like maybe some fencing options for her home to make sure that, I know that there's not the ability to make wide swaths of changes, but I know that in other developments that we've had before, the developers worked with the residents to provide additional fencing, and so I'm not going to ask you that on the spot right now. There you are, on the spot right now, but just something to think about, and hopefully when we vote on this, maybe there would be something that we can do to work out some sort of deal, so that way there'd be fencing for your animals, which I would assume also the residents would be appreciative of, also to protect your animals and make sure you're good. And yeah, I'm not going to put you on the
They're
spot
really
right
good questions. I appreciate you bringing that up because they do talk. I mean, turkeys don't care about time, and neither does Crispy Nuggets. My rooster doesn't care. He's 5 a.m. they crow. But I can tell you that they're also very, like, we have a really old farmhouse that's not like got really good brand new walls that are insulated and everything, and we can't hear them in the morning. So we weren't too worried because we care about what the neighbors are going to hear as well. We're hoping that it can be a really lovely symbiotic relationship where everybody can just, appreciate what we have, and we can appreciate what you're doing as well. We're happy to work with anybody.
So for clarification, are you on Holdridge or are you on 48th?
We're on Holdridge.
You're on Holdridge, okay.
We extend the long way on Holdridge. Yeah.
Are we on track to vote on this next week?
We are.
I'm just trying to quickly think what's the best way to, I'll give you my email address, and if you can give me your email, or then just email me, and then I'll be in contact with the developer, and then we'll figure out how to make sure that, see what all options are possible.
Okay.
Okay. I'll meet you around the corner here and I'll write it
Okay.
down for you.
All right.
Thank you again, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Council.
you.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Mr. Henriksen.
Steve Henriksen with the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street. I thought I would try to explain the circumstances here that might provide a little more information. I am very sorry for putting Brock on the spot there. Yes, in the past, with a lot of the annexations, it's a very standard question. Typically, it's referring to more typical animals like cats, dogs, and horses that we might have found.
Mhm.
So in talking with Brock, he'll double check on the other animals that are a little less typical. But yes, that had, and it's on our website, that it's for most of the animal cases, but Brock will confirm, that yes, if you don't meet today's regulations, the health department hasn't actively gone out there and said, all right, too many turkeys there, put them in the truck, and off they go. And I don't mean to be crass about that, but I'm just saying that hasn't been the circumstance in the past. So the animal circumstance, health can try to address that. The particular circumstance of this property, if we go back to the viewer to show the property, the property is about 135 feet deep, north-south. It's on the south side of West Holdridge, and it's about 300 feet long. So today, in this what she was talking about in this image is that the house is here, and she has a rather large outbuilding that is next to it. It's not part of the development. It is currently AG zoning. The zoning stays the same, so her zoning regulations don't change. But yes, one financial aspect of it is that it becomes inside the city limits and now starts having to pay City of Lincoln property taxes after with the next tax year. So that is one aspect. The other aspect, I think, really then went to the development plan, and I'll try to zoom in here on it. So in this image here, you can see that, again, this is her house and the outbuilding. And what she's referring to is that there's mostly houses backing up to it, but there is a street that comes from the west and there's a street that comes from the south. So from the west, there's this one here that ends with temporarily with a turnaround, and then there's a public street that comes to it from the south. The property being 300 feet wide in the future, at some point when somebody wants to subdivide it, there's actually quite a lot of land there that could be subdivided. So that's why streets are often stubbed into properties. She's not required to develop a property. If she wants to remain there and not subdivide it, that of course is the case. There are two different things in terms of the utilities. She said she was estimating the cost based on being forced to hook to water and sewer. That's not the case with water. She could be inside the city limits within 5 feet of a city water main, and there's nothing that requires you to hook up to city water. So with any of our other annexations, water is not a requirement. However, that is different for sanitary sewer. And on the south side of this property, let me go back to the image here, there is a sanitary sewer line being built to serve these smaller units to the south of it. That sewer line would come within 300 feet of her house, and then she would have a requirement to hook up within 6 months. And with this circumstance, typically there's a connection fee that goes along with that, and it is based on a linear basis. For your normal house that might be 50 feet wide, it can still be a substantial amount. If it is based on a 300-foot basis, then because she has so much linear frontage, that's where her amount of connection fee would be, because she has that much frontage, which works fine if you're trying to subdivide the property, but if you're not subdividing the property, it's a rather large cost for any one individual to do. So that it's that sanitary sewer connection fee that is not an immediate result of annexation. If that sewer line is not built for 4 years because they intend to start at other parts of the property, and this question did come up at Planning Commission, then it may be 4 or 5 years until that sewer line comes up. So she wouldn't be forced to connect to it within 6 months of notification until that sewer line is built. And the question was brought up as at the Planning Commission, well, is that something that the developer or the city or somebody could do something about that connection fee? Typically the city doesn't change the connection fee. It's based on a linear basis. We've had other annexations where sometimes a developer helped pick up the cost of that, but that is not a requirement in this aspect of it. The reason this property, as well as the other 3, are included in the annexation is that the city is annexing Northwest 40th Street. And so these 3 properties are all going to be 100% surrounded by the city limits. And we're annexing Northwest 40th Street because at the last phase of this development, there will be a street connection out to Northwest 40th. So the city wanted to maintain and everything and deal with the plans for that. And that is also supported by the county engineer, that just to be easier for us to keep all of Northwest 40th in the city limits, as well as West Holdridge from Northwest 40th back to Northwest 48th. So I hope I wasn't exactly responding to a question, but that was the information that was pertinent to this particular address.
I know that you're not LTU, but do you have any idea where the sewer line runs? Will it
Yeah,
run along
the sewer
Holdridge?
line is coming up from the south.
From the south?
And then is brought across the site, bending on each of the streets that come forward. And then the sewer line as proposed would be built by the developer and would be right behind their house. Partly one of the reasons we have the waivers that we do is the typical lot line for a house, and I'll zoom back in. The typical lot line for a house goes all the way out to basically within 2 feet of the sidewalk. In this circumstance, the lot lines are very tight around the house. So really, when we're reducing the setback for the houses to 0, is to a lot line that's within a foot of the house. Typically, when you're building your house, your lot line is 20, 25 feet away from the front yard property line right by the sidewalk. So in essence, as you drive down this private roadway, the houses will still have a general relationship to that, but the sidewalks will actually, as Kelly was mentioning, the sidewalks are actually going to be on the other side, because in essence, these private roadways are functioning more like an alley. The garages are facing to them, the units, their front porches, their entryways are actually facing, in this case, there's a common green space here, there's green space here, and for these little short cul-de-sacs, they're functioning as alleys because the houses are actually facing the common green space. Whoops, sorry, I got off the image here.
So the sidewalk is between
Yeah, so
the...
for these
okay.
units, their driveway, i.e. private alley, is here, and they face this green space, which will have the sidewalk for it, and the units are facing each other with no garages facing that direction. So as you're walking up the sidewalk to the front door, it's a very nice appearance because you're just seeing the front porches and the fronts of the houses because the garages are all over on the other side. So it's really kind of a older-fashioned way of dealing with it. But these, what might be considered functionally alleys, are still having street names because that helps with LFR in identifying which of these units kind of back here off the main public street, which alleyway should they be shooting down. So we have what are functioning like alleys and their width is reduced are going to be named private roadways because that helps with addressing and with LFR. And they were correct. We have worked on this plan with Lincoln Fire and Rescue, and particularly because these short dead-end alleys were only 150 feet long, LFR was comfortable with them having the 20-foot width because that would serve all of their rigs that would be necessary to go down there, and it's a very short distance for them to back up and out.
Well, looking at Ms. Liebengood's property line, it looks like the sewer line would run along that area. Okay, so it would not necessarily be a 300-foot line she was paying for. It might just stub out to something shorter.
Yeah, her service line from her house to this line would be very short.
Yeah.
The challenge is that typically a connection is based on your linear frontage along that sewer line. And here's where, because her lot is 300 feet this direction, she may have as much as 200 linear feet of sewer adjacent to her property, which she doesn't need 200 linear feet to serve her property, but that's what's being built because it is serving the units that are to the south of it. And there's spacing requirements for where the water line needs to be spaced far enough away from the sewer line. So because the developer in essence has got an alley behind the houses, which helps definitely with the affordability of it, the sewer line is on the opposite side of the house. So there's some good things that are going on here to help with the affordability. It just had the unfortunate aspect of there was a sewer line that is proposed to be built adjacent to her property.
Okay, thank you. I think that's helpful. Any other questions for Mr. Henriksen? Councilman Shook.
Thank you. I think there's some other people that'd like to testify, but while you're here, we have 2 items on our agenda, an annexation and a rezoning.
And an annexation agreement.
And an annexation agreement. The developer has presented us plans for his idea for what he'd like to do with the property. How often do you see those ideas change over the course of a development?
And very often they do change over time. And so there's a certain amount of things that can be done administratively. And certainly here where they have some really good ideas to try to address costs, as they try out phase one, they may come back and say in our second phase, well, we'd like to tweak how we're doing things.
And
So
are we voting on those things today? Are we discussing those things? We're discussing them, but.
So today, a lot of what you have is some of the waivers that are necessary. For instance, the lot line setback being 0 rather than 20, because the lots are being very small, and there's HOA is going to be maintaining a lot of the private roadways, though the main entrances in here are all public streets, which also helps actually with affordability, that they have fewer streets that they have to maintain. So, but you are approving the change of zone PUD, which allows the uses, approves the grading and drainage plan, and also generally approves the utility locations as they are proposed right now. But it's also the annexation, which includes the 3 properties that are not proposed by the developer. The developer didn't propose the annexation of those 3 properties. That was the city, because they got completely surrounded.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Stay close. All right. Are there any other questions or comments from council members?
No, but thank you for letting me ask questions out of order. I appreciate it.
This is good. This was important, and I know she had to leave, but we'll be back in touch. Is there anyone here today, anyone else who'd like to address this issue? Items 6A, B, and C. Come forward and give us your name and address.
My name's Peter Katt, K-A-T-T, 6333 Apples Way, Lincoln, Nebraska, 68516.
All right, Mr. Katt.
I'm involved with this project and actually recruited Kelly to come because I liked what he'd done in Village Gardens. And as the council may know, I'm a huge advocate and fan of finding ways for our city to build housing. I like Kelly's word attainable rather than affordable, because affordable has one of those words that everybody thinks
Who
it's
defines
something
it?
bad.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a fun project to work on. Kelly's expertise has been invaluable. Our staff throughout the departments have been very receptive and have helped a lot in terms of, and as I sat back and just listened, the complexity of being able to modify our current regulations to accommodate reasonable changes to allow this type of development is astounding to me. If you think about it, if you drive down Normal Boulevard or 56th Street and you look at houses that were built in the 50s and 60s, that's really what we're talking about. 800 to 950 square feet homes with a single stall garage attached. It's what my uncle had back in Kenosha, Wisconsin. They were built right after the war. They were quite affordable. Those houses today are expensive, and that was really kind of what motivated me to help go down this path and say, is it attractive in the market? I don't know. Kelly and I think this is going to be attractive in the marketplace. Well, it remains to be seen, but affordability, you can, that I think is what drives us. I have a son who's in the young 30s, and he says, Dad, people my age don't care how big it is. They just want a place to live, and they'd prefer their own 4 walls as opposed to apartment house. So we'll see. In terms of the adjoining properties, I did reach out 2 or 3 years ago and asked to acquire and put them in. This plan creates as much value for the adjoining properties as possible in terms of making them easy to further develop or extract value out of them in the future. And so I never like to harm neighbors, because I don't like to be harmed. But I don't know any other way to go forward with this that won't impact what their lifestyle is out there. And so I think we've done as good as we can on minimizing that. I don't know what else could be done at this point in time, and I think your staff and the health, I think the execution of how that happens through your current people in City Hall, they recognize that too, and they don't just go out and do arbitrary enforcement actions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I look forward to your support. Kelly and I'd like to get forward. I mean, we're at least a year off because we got to grade and put it's a lot of work left to be done out there. I'm really thrilled to have NeighborWorks interested in the project. They've indicated an interest in building up to 6 of the homes in the neighborhood. And they've identified an interest in helping identify what are some of the commercial uses that might want to go in on the corner to serve not only this area, but also the broader community up there. And I'd welcome any input. I don't have any preconceived notions on that. And so I think that I've got a pretty good group put together that I'm excited to bring this project forward. Be about a year or so to actually see anything major happen. So thanks for encouraging me to come up, Mr. Joe.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here? Please come forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Halverson, 6311 Inverness Road, and my concern is a fairly minor concern, that's for the owner of the pets, the turkeys, and to her that's probably not minor. She's left, and they mentioned grandfather cause, but they didn't go into what that entails. Is there a time limit on it? Okay, you got 5 years, and the turkey's got to go. Again, maybe they don't have that expertise. Well, again, they didn't bring it up. Maybe they don't know the facts offhand. But there will be complaints. If she has a rooster, I'm sure there will be complaints. But if they have the sanction, say, oh, sorry. So I guess I would like to have that addressed. How long does the waiver last? Or will they even get a waiver? That wasn't really guaranteed they'll get a waiver or homes, or and so how long is this going to last? All right, thanks.
Good questions. Thank you, Mr. Halverson. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward to address council on this matter? All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, let's move ahead to the next item.
I'll call item 6D, change of zone 05061G, application of Nebraska Horsemen's Benevolent and Protective Association to amend the Southwest Village Planned Unit Development to allow an increase in gaming positions from 1,210 to 1,350 and modification to the West Denton Road access with associated waivers on property generally located at 7055 South First Street.
Good afternoon and welcome. Would you mind, I know you both, but would you mind saying your name and address for the record?
Certainly. My name's Aaron Bright. I'm with Olson, 601 P Street, Lincoln.
Okay.
Lynn McNally, CEO of the Horsemen, 301 South 12th Street, Suite 140.
All right. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time. So just kind of wanted to lay out the PUD amendment that is before you right now, as kind of listed in that the summary report from Planning Department. The primary reason for the PUD amendment is to accommodate continued construction, phased improvements of the casino expansion and the associated parking. Just a little bit of background, and I'll kind of get up a site plan just to show for reference as well. That shows up.
Oh,
Left there.
yes.
Thank you.
So we're looking at the northeast corner of the Horseman's property. The racetrack is to the south.
So yeah, property location there at South First Street and West Denton Road. Just a little background. The original PUD amendment, which approved the casino use, was submitted and applied and approved back in 2021. Mm-hmm. And then kind of immediately following that approval, the casino implemented renovations on the existing simulcast building that was out there. So that's kind of what we considered the interim casino or the phase one improvements. So those phase one improvements opened up in September of 2022, just kind of showing you those limits. Kind of this dashed area here was that renovated area of that existing building. That casino opened up with 435 gaming positions at that time, and it's been operational since that time. Immediately following the operation or the opening of the phase one improvements, phase two casino expansion was designed and constructed and actually just now opened up in the first week of November to a total of about 900 gaming positions. And just to show you, that was the original hatched area, plus that kind of solid boundary there just immediately to the north side of that existing simulcast building. Just a couple points of reference there. So along with that phase two building expansion, South First Street was fully built out as well, with the roundabout and the entrance into the parking areas.
And the streetlights.
And the streetlights, traffic control, or traffic signal was also installed with that. We had some right turn lanes and left turn lanes also constructed on West Denton Road as well, which is kind of just to the west. There's a point of access there on existing West Denton Road that was very beneficial because during both of phase one construction, all of the parking that was constructed was to the west side. The entrance for all the patrons was to the west side, and that allowed the construction team to kind of build everything to the north and the east of the existing building. And so, yes, the reason for this kind of the parking has been a little bit of a shifting target in terms of, like, with all the construction, we have to kind of move parking over here. We've permitted some parking that was further west near South Folsom Street as well.
None of this parking here existed before November. That was all a staging area for construction.
And so when we started talking about the phase three casino expansion, we had met with planning department. We had come up with this plan that's kind of before you now. Been involved with a handful of PUD amendments since that original 2021 date. This one's in front of you because there are some waivers associated with those, the parking, to the waivers to the parking lot design standards. And so, yeah, what then specifically this PUD amendment is doing is to kind of solidify what our plans look like in terms of now phase three construction, which we're starting to talk about, starting to get into the design process a little bit. And so the plan that we've kind of come up with is that existing parking area that has been just now constructed would also lie within, there's kind of a lighter dashed outline here that envisions what the phase three casino expansion would be. And so what the waivers in front of you would allow is to basically change, to waive the design standards for screening and sidewalks, just because that parking that's already built out there to support the use is ultimately going to get ripped up and changed over once we start with the construction of the new building. And so we're just kind of asking for more time to allow what's out there right now. The temporary parking is hard surfaced. It's asphalt. It's not just rock. It is hard surfaced. It just doesn't have, you know, the landscaping or anything in there.
And it's got curbs and everything else.
And then, so the other request along with the PUD there is to extend the use of that West Denton turn lane access. Right now, as I mentioned before, there is a right turn lane and a left turn lane built there now. We'd want to extend the allowable use of that full access to be able to continue to use that left turn lane for the period of time during the phase three construction until the phase three limits of the casino do open up. Because again, it kind of shifts the primary entrance point back to the west during phase three construction, and that Denton Road access will be, you know, heavily utilized for all the parking area that'll be to the west there. I think that's kind of most of the summary for the PUD amendment and the reasoning for it, and certainly welcome any questions that you may have.
Right. Are there any questions from councilors?
No questions, but I would just comment, we understand that this is a phased approach, and you guys have done an excellent job through phases 1 and 2. We anticipate that continuing on, so I don't have any concerns about this, and thank you for the work that you've done to make sure that this phased approach makes sense over time for the users of your facility.
Olson's been very helpful coming up with solutions, and I have to tell you that Steve Hendrickson and Terry Cathy have been extremely helpful. I've lost track of the number of times that I've called Steve and asked to meet with him informally to just get some ideas about how to go forward in the most productive and efficient manner. And he's always been extremely generous with his time, so I really appreciate that. This is a massive undertaking. As you can see in the PUD request, we are ramping up. We originally, the Omaha facility was going to be slightly larger than Lincoln. We have, because of the demographics and the way that the revenue has turned out, we are asking to make this a little bit larger, so it will actually be the largest casino in the state of Nebraska. The numbers support it. We have almost an apples to apples comparison now. Omaha opened in August with approximately 908 gaming positions. We've got about 900 here, so it really is fairly even. Lincoln's doing better. So we are really encouraged by the numbers that are coming out. We're hoping to get the city of Lincoln significantly more revenue as time goes on. So we're hoping to continue to be a good partner and continue to be very excited about this project. We're going to be building for several more years into the future to make this bigger and better.
Just for my own sort of memory here, where ultimately is your front door? Like,
The ultimate front door is going to be where the parking lot is now.
okay.
Most of the footprint of that parking is actually going to be casino floor, and it'll be a large entrance over on that side with a porte cochere.
Okay.
So there will still be access in the back, but that's not going to be the main entrance.
All right. Thank you for that reminder. Okay. If there's no other questions from counselors, then we will see if there's anyone else here who'd like to speak on this item.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. And with that, is there anyone here in chambers who'd like to speak on this item, either in support or in opposition? If so, please stand up and come on down. Seeing no one coming forward to speak on this item, we can move ahead. Thank you.
I'll call item 6E. Item 6E is miscellaneous 24007, vacating the final plat of G and C 3rd Edition, generally located at 2100 Magnum Circle and 235 South Coddington Avenue.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm David Caseman, managing partner for Magnum Properties. Do you want me to just review what's going on?
Yeah, if you would just give us an overview,
Yeah,
please.
at 2100 Magnum Circle houses Zipline Brewing, and last year they were looking at expanding just a little plot just north of the building to house some used grains that are spent grains. And since we own the other property and it wasn't interfering with the present tenant, we gave them approval to do that. Since then, Zipline Brewing has changed hands, and they no longer want to do the expansion. At the same time, we have a new tenant that's wanting to do something more with the property that would like it just reverted back to where it was originally back in 2023. So that's why we're abandoning the plat.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Are there questions from counselors? Councilman Shob?
Oh,
Sir.
mine will be more staff related.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Caseman, just stick around in the room. We may come back to you.
After all the rest of this?
No, just after
Oh,
we
okay.
have, I think, some staff come forward. Thank you. Director Carey, Planning. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, David Carey, Director of the Planning Department, 555 South 10th Street.
You're getting really well with telepathy. Councilman Shob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Carey, I am seeing a lot of the first half of this,
and we have long public hearings, lots of conversation, reasons for, reasons against, and then we vote to do something. And now we're voting to undo what we did? And do you have any heartburn about that? Are you okay with that?
Yes, we are okay with that. I'll note that the Planning Commission did vote 7-0 to approve this, reverting back to the original layout. I think the only thing that we did look at, and we potentially could have had a heartburn over, would be the potential for the need to adjust any utility easements, but those were basically remained the same from the original layout. So there's really even no reverting back for that. It's just the easements are still there and they're still intact, so that we're fine with that.
Thank you very much. That helps. I
Sure.
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, no, I appreciate the question. That was helpful. Any other questions for David Carey? Then, thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Caseman.
Thank you.
All right. Now, if there's anyone here who'd like to speak on this item, please come forward. And seeing no one, we will move on to the next item.
I'll call item 6F, text amendment 24014, application of Nebraska Sign Company to amend Lincoln Municipal Code section 27.69.090, places of religious assembly, schools, and community playhouses to clarify the language describing permissible freestanding signage.
Good evening.
Yes, like was said, and you guys have probably all read about, we are seeking a text amendment to 27.69.090. This is a section of the signage code that's just relating to typically churches, but schools, community playhouses, things like that, that are in residentially zoned areas. One thing that came up in the planning department meeting and that I will draw attention to is that this is not really a change of anything in the sign code. Not going to change anything visually when you're rolling up to a church in the future. This is actually really just an amendment to clarify some of the language and kind of get it back to its original intention. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Who is this guy?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was paying so much attention to something. All right, so would you give us your name?
Oh, of course.
Address?
Nolan Graham with Nebraska Sign, 1140 North 21st.
Thank you.
My apologies.
I had one question. On the 20, in the case that there was a wall sign, and there was a 20 square foot wall sign facing the street, is that illuminated or non-illuminated?
So we're not actually adjusting any of the language as it pertains to the wall signs. So I don't want to speak to what exactly the code says because that's not the area that I'm memorized up on. This is just with freestanding signs, and I can give you a deeper explanation of it. So there's, as the code reads now, there's one critical word of and. So basically it says that in order to calculate a freestanding sign for a church in a residential zone, you have to be under this height and within this sign area code for not just the sign, because sign area is already a defined term, but for your sign area and its structure. So the interpretation that came out over the last couple of years, as there's just been a changing of the guard within the building department, the interpretation was being read as, nope, everything we're looking at that we would identify as a sign has to fit into this many square feet, which is drastically reducing, you know, what you see around churches around town.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Of course.
All right. All right. Is there anyone here who has questions, who would like to, or I'm so sorry, not questions. Is there anyone here who would like to address this item, either in support or in opposition? All right. Seeing none, we can move forward. Madam Clerk, let's read the next item.
I'll call items 6G through 6K together. Item 6G through K is annexation 24001, application of Firefox Properties LLC to annex approximately 37.43 acres of property generally located at South 84th and Van Dorn Streets, and the related comprehensive plan amendment 24001, application of Firefox Properties LLC to amend the future land use plan of the Lincoln-Lancaster County 2050 comprehensive plan to change the future land use designation from urban density residential to commercial on property generally located at South 84th and Van Dorn Streets. The related change of zone 24001, application of Firefox Properties LLC to change the zoning designation from HE Agriculture District to B2 Planned Neighborhood Business on property generally located at South 84th and Van Dorn Streets. And the related annexation agreement for Firefox development between City and Firefox Properties LLC for the property generally located at the northeast corner of the intersections of South 84th Street and Van Dorn Streets. And the related use permit 24001, application of Firefox Properties LLC to allow up to 175,000 square feet of commercial floor area and up to 100-room hotel with waivers to setbacks, height, block length, and lighting design standards on property generally located at South 84th and Van Dorn Streets.
All right, I've got a few packets.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Good evening. I think evening. Anyway, my name is Ann Post. I'm an attorney with Rembolt Ludke Law Firm. I'm here today on behalf of the developer Firefox Properties LLC. My address is 1128 Lincoln Mall, Suite 300, Lincoln, Nebraska 68508. So, as I've stated, I'm here tonight on behalf of the developer Firefox Properties and in support of these 5 applications. I'm going to start this presentation first with an overview of the property itself. I've passed out a few packets that are generally the maps I'm going to refer to. I can place it correctly. What I have on the overhead on the screen is just a map of the property itself. You can see that this property is located at the northeast corner of 84th and Van Dorn Streets. Highlighted in blue is this area. I think we've got this zoomed in a little bit, is the area of the application. You can see the slightly darker shaded area is city limits. The slightly lighter area is outside of city limits. What we're emphasizing here is that this property is surrounded by city limits on 3 sides that we're requesting this annexation. This property is zoned ag, but as you will note, zoom out just a little further, maybe a little closer. All right, what I'm showing here is you'll note, again, this area is highlighted in blue. It's surrounded by commercial zoning to the south. We've got high density residential on both the east and the west side. It's actually on the west side is across the street is an apartment complex. On the east side apartment complexes have been approved, but are still in the development process. All right. The proposed project in front of you, there is a site plan that I provided in your packet, is what you're seeing here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I've got my directions right. All right. So what you're seeing is that this is a commercial development with several pad sites. We've got our connections to 84th and then to Van Dorn Street. Our connection is up here at Carl Ridge Road, and then south on Van Dorn Street. This is an application for 175,000 square feet of commercial space, a 100-room hotel space, and also 500 residential dwellings. Again, I've included, I know this is a little zoomed out, so that's why it's also included in your packet, so you can look at it a little closer. So I've started both at the beginning, what the property looks like today, and the end, what the project is intended to look at. Now I'm going to go backtrack to the middle to walk through the applications that are in front of you today. So the first application in front of you is a change to the comprehensive plan. That this property, as you know, is a large site. It is partially designated commercial in the future land use plan, partially designated residential. So this change here is to designate the entire area as commercial in the future land use plan. Next, as noted, this is outside city limits. In order to get our commercial zoning, the city has a strong policy that the property needs to be included in city limits. So that's why we are requesting annexation. In front of, we have our second application is the annexation application. To skip down then, included with that is our annexation agreement, which is really the meat of this project. This property is unique in that it is surrounded by city limits on 3 sides. That while there are advantages to being the first to develop in an area, that you get to lay out your site plan you have a little bit more flexibility, and disadvantages that you have to bear some of that infrastructure cost. The same is true when you're the last to develop in the area. So in this case is where the sewer and water is generally readily available next to the site, but it creates more of a discussion when it comes to the traffic improvements and the street improvements in the area. So that's where the meat of the discussion has been on this project, and that's where we have arrived at an annexation agreement that deals with these, that is supported by the city departments. So generally, what I have on the overhead is Exhibit B to the annexation agreements. And to the annexation agreement, this details the improvements that will be made. As noted, you're seeing that there is access will be at this intersection of 87th and Van Dorn, and then also at Carl Ridge Road. I would note that Carl Ridge Road, we'll zoom in on it a little bit here. Carl Ridge Road will be a signalized full access intersection. The signalization at the intersection is a cost that will be borne by the developer entirely. Next, you will see improvements include that right turn lane off 84th Street into the development, the southbound left turn lane off 84th Street into the development, that is the extension of those turn lanes, and then really that alignment of the intersection at 84th and Carl Ridge Road. Those are all improvements that will be made by the developer. They will be reimbursed by impact fees to the extent that impact fees are available. We'll note that it is specifically the improvements to 84th Street will be reimbursed by impact fees, as well as the first 100 feet of the driveways, of the drive aisles into the development. So that covers the comprehensive plan amendment, the annexation, and the meat of the annexation agreement. The remaining two applications in front of you are the change of zone. This is the request for change of zone from that ag to B2. And then accompanying that is the requirement for a use permit. Any B2 zoning requires a use permit. That is the application in front of you that includes that 175,000 square feet of commercial space, a 100-room hotel, and that 500 square feet, or 500 residential developments. It's been a long meeting at the back of the room as well. So anyway, that's what we have in front of you. I am happy to answer any questions that you have about this project tonight.
Thank you very much. All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Post?
No.
I'm just curious.
Yes.
Is the hotel the large rectangle?
Let me pull up my site plan. No. That is proposed as a retailer. I will say the question has been what retailer. We currently don't have an anchor tenant, so if any of you have ideas or anyone looking, I know there's a sign up at the property with a number to call. Please call it. Developer would be happy to take any suggestions or anyone interested in that space. So.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, seeing no questions, we'll see if there's anyone here who'd like to ask questions or make a comment from the floor. Is there anyone else here in chambers who would like to speak on these items G through J? K, sorry. G through K. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on these items, either in support or in opposition? Seeing none, we will move forward.
Okay, we'll go on to Section 7, Ordinances, third reading and related resolutions. I'll call item 7A, approving an agreement for tower space and appurtenances between the city and Selco Partnership, Delaware Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless to occupy and use certain city-owned parcel of real property and tower generally located at 2201 South 84th Street, introduced by Bowers.
So moved. I'll second, and we do have a request to delay this 1 week to our December 16th meeting.
Okay, the second was Carlson, and Carlson is introducing the motion to delay by 1 week, and he needs a second.
I'd second.
Second, Weber.
Thanks,
All right. So, let's, if folks are amenable, let's vote on the motion to delay by 1 week.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. See it next week. Next item, please.
We'll call Item 7B is Street and Alley Vacation 24009, application of ABC Electric Company to vacate the remaining portion of the east-west alley generally located east of North 24th Street and south of Y Street, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Mr. Shub?
We talked about this a little bit last week during a public hearing, Madam Chair. Councilman Duden and I had a small conversation about, in the past, when we saw alley vacations, there was usually a cost associated with it. And I'm not sure if we were clear during our public hearing that the person who requested the vacation owns the property, so it's not really changing property hands. And I'm not sure if I understood that correctly. Would it,
We might want to have someone come forward, or City Attorney Christie, if this is something that you
is
can
someone
address.
still here? Staff?
We'll give ourselves a moment. But
Mr. Duden, Councilman Duden, who couldn't be here
Yeah.
today, referred to the development on South 13th Street where there's a housing development and health clinic going in, and the city vacated an alley there, and the developer had to compensate us for it, was his understanding. And he was trying to make a comparison between the two.
And I don't want to pretend I'm the developer or an attorney, but I would ask that you take a look at the summary report.
Yes.
On this item, page 1, the findings of fact, if you would look specifically at the fourth finding of fact,
And then number 5 as well.
and 5.
I'm stating that funds have been paid in the amount of $2,620 to the city clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they are comparable, and I can
Yeah.
explain to Mr. Duden that I
Yeah.
did ask the question for
Yes,
him.
yes.
And we did, yeah.
ABC Electric owns adjacent property. They did not own the alley. That was still the city's.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me do that on the record. You're very kind to me.
It's not hard to be kind to you, Mr. Shob. All right. Any other discussion from council members? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Bowers?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7C is amending Chapter 8.20 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to the Lincoln Food Code by amending Sections 8.20.020, 8.20.30, 8.20.060, 8.20.065, 8.20.095, 8.20.110, 8.20.120, 8.20.130, 8.20.135, 8.20.140, 8.20.150, 8.20.160, 8.20.191, 8.20235, 8.20261, 8.20290, 8.20320, 8.20330, and repealing sections 8.20075 and 8.20085 to remove language related to the local regulation of foods prepared in a private home to be consistent with the Nebraska Peer Reviewed Act and amended by the 108th Nebraska Legislature, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Schob,
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7D is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter F by creating the classifications fire investigator and paramedic non-suppression, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Carlson.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7E is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter A by deleting the classifications for financial information system coordinator, operations supervisor, watershed management specialist, assistant sanitary engineer, business development specialist, police fleet manager, zoning coordinator, impact fee administrator, physician assistant, registered nurse, services coordination supervisor, public health laboratory technologist, public health laboratory scientist, street maintenance superintendent, assistant superintendent of solid waste operations, superintendent of road and storm sewer maintenance, utilities, laboratory service supervisor, water meter shop supervisor, water service supervisor, assistant superintendent water construction, assistant superintendent water service, assistant superintendent wastewater collection, assistant superintendent of operations, water production and treatment, food production manager, community operations forester, and assistant transit manager, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Weber.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7F is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter C by deleting the classifications for billing supervisor, network technician, administrative secretary, associate engineer specialist, urban search and rescue specialist, licensed practical nurse, maintenance supervisor, environmental laboratory specialist 1, utility plant technician, and utility control instrumentation technician, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Bowers.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7G is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter E by deleting the classification for workers' compensation claims specialist, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Schob.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yep.
Beckius.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7H is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter M by deleting the classifications for technical support specialist 2, health data and evaluation manager, recreating manager, and natural resources manager, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Bowers.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7I is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter N by deleting the classifications for housing rehabilitation assistant and assistant utility plant mechanic, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please.
Bowers.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Schob.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7J is amending the pay schedule for the employees group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter W by deleting the classifications for compensation manager, workers' compensation claims coordinator, and resources and program development coordinator, introduced by Carlson.
So moved.
Second?
Second, Beckius. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Schob.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Beckius.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next is our resolutions. First readings are items 8A through 8H. Section 9 is our pending list, states certain items 9A through 9C. And section 10 is our pending list items 10A through 10H.
Okay. We've had a request from the applicant on the pending list to remove all items. Can I have a motion, please?
I'd move to remove all items on the pending list.
All right.
I'd second.
Thank you, Brody. Second. All righty, that was Carlson, motion, Brody second. Any discussion? Then let's call the roll.
Schob.
Yes.
Beckius.
Abstain?
Bowers.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. That concludes our agenda this evening. We are now open for public comment, and anyone may address the, just one moment. There's a lot of paper in front of me. All right. This is the second meeting of the month, and so immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda today or nor planned for a future agenda. We ask that all speakers strive for civility and allow the business of council to proceed unimpeded. You have 5 minutes to speak on any number of topics that you'd like to bring before the council. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Josephine. Well, I'll just leave it at that. You guys know me. And I want to comment on the state of affairs of, and I'm speaking to a larger audience, obviously. Well, to give you an update, my attorney, you know, I'm not doing what I should, so, you know, she, so I said we parted ways. She did good, but I'm not. I was charged with disturbing the peace and loitering when I was sitting there. After my first beer, they told me I had to leave, and so, you know, then she said, you know, we caught you with sexualizing comments and you were jerking off here, I quote, 3 years ago. Well, I was told that you know, I would technically, well, not technically, I'm guilty of, I don't know about disturbing the peace, but certainly, I guess, loitering. And I guess it's not going to matter in the final round. But, you know, when she said that, that's like, I had to say, what am I going to do? There are regulars there. I live around the corner. Oh, yeah, I was jerking off. Okay, I'll see you later. I mean, so what the hell? You know, fuck that. And so I pled not guilty. And it'll be, you know, cool hand Lucy. Because I'm not, you know, I'm also doing this for my former attorney's daughter who's disabled and gay. So, yeah, I'm not, I will not. I mean, this has gotten me so upset over my dead freaking body. Over my dead body. Just letting, I want the prosecutor to talk to me. I was also, she informed me that the prosecutor doesn't typically talk to defendants, but I suggest you do. I suggest we have a little chat. We can chat over with the police video. So this is the state that we're in. And so that's a update on what's going on in the city with regard to an incident like mine. Because, like, you know, I'm going down with the ship. And I better speak to the prosecutor, and we better handle it. All right, I guess, I mean, I've been real upset. You know, when you get that pit in your stomach, that you know what's coming. But I suggest we have a talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Kayshawn Mungelo, 323 North 44th Street. Here to again give updated statistics on the death and destruction in the Gaza Strip. Updated December 8th, 2024, 1:37 p.m. GMT. The Palestinian Ministry of Health says more than 45,500 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks, and thousands more are buried under rubble and threatened by illness. Here are the latest casualty figures. In Gaza, killed at least 44,708 people, including 17,492 children. Injured more than 106,050 people. Missing more than 11,000. In the occupied West Bank, killed at least 807 people, including 169 children. Injured more than 6,250. Across Gaza, more than half of Gaza's homes have been damaged or destroyed. 80% of commercial facilities have been destroyed, 87% of school buildings, healthcare facilities, only 17 out of 36 are partially functional. 68% of road networks destroyed, 68% of cropland. For the journalists, as of November 20th, more than 150 journalists, mostly Palestinians, have been killed since October 7th. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists and International Federation of Journalists, at least 120 Palestinian, 3 Lebanese, and 2 Israeli journalists have been killed. For forced displacement, the Israeli military has issued more than 65 evacuation orders since October 7th, leaving about 80% of the Gaza Strip under active evacuation orders. For the city of Lincoln, if anybody is fucking watching this late, and you want to do some good for the city of Lincoln, or do some good for the world, help out the community, if you're just upset as I am and the rest of the people in this country about where our taxpayer dollars are going, and you know that our government is not going to take care of us, come down to the city council meetings every Mondays. We will be here, and we will get organized. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the city council this evening? Welcome.
My name is Anastasia Finner. I'm waiving my address for personal safety. And I just have a few things that I think that people need to see to understand what happens when we have a community that supports evil. See, we make bombs for the country that is stripping men and boys naked and taking them to undisclosed locations. That is what we are doing. We are sending bombs and killing people. This man is watching someone bleed to death because we are complicit. The city of Lincoln has blood on its hands. And this is what we cause. We cause people to die in the worst ways imaginable. I don't know if any of you have ever suffered with a skin condition like psoriasis, but there is no treatment for that. People, children, are suffering with psoriasis all over their bodies, a very, very treatable condition. There are no medicines because we are bombing the medicines. We are bombing over 1,000 doctors. Over 1,000 doctors have been killed since October 7th. General Dynamics makes bombs that kills children. They are in your backyard. If you care about human rights, that would not be the case. At what point do we need to understand that, like, this is our fault? I would also like to make a point that Lincoln is an incredibly diverse city. Very, very diverse, beautiful city. And I want you to think about why Lincoln is so diverse for a second. Where do you think people are coming from to come here? They are coming from places that we bombed. The amount of fucking people that come from the Middle East to the United States is to escape our bombs because we are not bombing ourselves. You come across people in your everyday lives who are from Palestine. You all are responsible for keeping General Dynamics intact. You are okay with there being a weapons manufacturer near groceries, shopping centers, near restaurants, near residential buildings. At what point do we understand that that is not a safe community and that you have a responsibility to keep us safe? A friend of mine was explaining to me how a man in Gaza saved up money and built an entire complex, an entire high-rise apartment complex for his family, because they have been forced to live in a small strip of land. Over 100 of his family members died in an instant because of an American bomb. All of a sudden, these people are without families. We can do something about it. We do not have to build bombs because it's very plain that there is no care for the amount of funerals that are not taking place because tens of thousands of people have been killed by our bombs. Where is the care? Where is the desire to do something good? There's no Christmas in Gaza. No Christmas this year in Gaza, the birthplace of Jesus Christ. So instead, you all gonna go home to your lush houses that aren't bombed, that has water hookup to them. You're gonna celebrate with your families while in the homeland of Christmas, your city is bombing it. None of you should be celebrating. I really hope that your Christmas is horrible, because it deserves to be, because you're ruining someone else's by killing them, by starving them. Of course, no time to hear about your crimes. Have a horrible, horrible Christmas.
Thank you. Is there anyone here else who would like to address council? Seeing no one coming forward, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
I would move we adjourn.
I will second.
Beckius and Carlson move and second. Madam Clerk.
Bowers?
Yes.
Schob?
Yes.
Beckius?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Meeting's adjourned.